If you've been watching WWE lately, you've probably noticed a troubling pattern. Moments that look incredible on social media, but make zero sense when you think about them for more than 5 seconds. AJ Lee's comeback, for instance, had all the ingredients for an all-time moment, but instead, we got manufactured shock value that sacrificed character consistency for a cheap pop. And this isn't just about one segment, it's about WWE's dangerous addiction to viral moments over actual storytelling. Now, don't get me wrong, hearing that theme hit after a decade was incredible, and the crowd went absolutely nuclear. But here's the problem. Look at Seth Rollins. This is supposed to be the Monday Night Messiah, the calculating villain who's been tormenting CM Punk for months. Instead of staying in character, he's literally making faces, almost smiling, breaking character completely, just to sell the surprise. And Becky Lynch, the man, the woman who's built her entire persona on never backing down from anyone. She literally drops her title belt and freezes like a deer in headlights when she sees AJ Lee. Think about that for a second. Becky Lynch, who stared down Ronda Rousey without flinching, is suddenly terrified of a returning wrestler who's been away for a decade. This is the same woman who's faced every top competitor on the roster and never shown fear. But suddenly, she needs to act scared to make AJ's return look more impressive. The creative team literally made their established characters act out of character just to service one moment. Look, there were numerous ways they could have booked this better. For example, what if they had used the established pattern they'd already been building? WWE had been doing the same Seth Rollins group beatdown every single week. The audience was getting used to this predictable formula. Instead of breaking that pattern randomly, they could have escalated it. Imagine if this particular beatdown was more intense than usual. Other faces try to help Punk, but get taken out systematically. Maybe Becky gets more physically involved than we've seen before. She's got Punk in a vulnerable position while he's defenseless. The audience thinks it's just another weekly segment, but suddenly it's reaching a level we haven't seen. Then AJ's music hits. Instead of everyone just standing around waiting, Becky's completely focused on what she's doing. Everyone else is dealing with chaos, and AJ's arrival actually breaks the established cycle. The crowd still gets their massive pop, but it feels like it emerged from the story WWE had already been telling, rather than coming out of nowhere. It uses the weekly pattern they'd established and turns it into something bigger. But AJ's return isn't an isolated incident. Let's talk about John Cena's abysmal heel turn. Even Cena himself admitted it bombed and that he failed. But here's the real issue. There was no story behind it. No months of character development leading to a breaking point. Then, just days before SummerSlam, they panic reversed it. Why? Because they needed another manufactured moment with Brock Lesnar's return. Notice the pattern? Shock moment, fan confusion, panic reversal. Create new shock moment, repeat. And here's what really exposes the creative laziness. When the heel turn didn't work, WWE blamed The Rock for not showing up. But think about that for a second. They had months to build something meaningful out of Cena's heel turn, Rock or no Rock. They could have created storylines, developed the character, given it depth and purpose. Instead, they did nothing. Just let it sit there until they could blame someone else for their creative failure. Then, the moment they saw an opportunity for another meaningless pop, Brock Lesnar's return, they flipped Cena back just days before SummerSlam. It's the perfect example of their addiction to moments over storytelling. They'd rather get a cheap Brock Lesnar return pop than actually commit to the story they started with Cena's character development. Back to Becky Lynch. Her frozen face reminds me of how Vince reacted during the Stone Cold's beer truck segment, widely considered one of the greatest WWE moments ever. But here's the crucial difference. The Rock and McMahon weren't acting scared just to make Austin look good. They were reacting logically to a character who had consistently proven he would go to any lengths for revenge. Their fear was earned through months of storytelling, not manufactured for one moment. Plus, Austin had a beer truck they had nowhere to escape. And notice, they didn't run off like cowards because they still held the numbers advantage. It's those small details that make every character's reaction feel justified. Kane's return in 2000 is a perfect example of how to do it right. DX were already exhausted from the match. They had enemies in the ring, so they couldn't fully focus. And then out of nowhere, Kane shows up with Paul Bearer. The whole place went nuts, and DX's panic actually made sense. They were already worn down, caught off guard, and Kane wasn't just another wrestler. He was a monster who had history with X-Pac. Their scrambling and fear felt earned, not manufactured, because the story had already set the stage for Kane to come back and destroy them. Becky freezing an AJ made no sense. That fear wasn't earned through story, it was just staged to force a pop. AJ's return should have hit in the middle of the chaos. catching everyone off guard, not stopping the show dead so the cameras could get a perfect shot. And this isn't just about one odd, badly produced segment. WWE has built an entire philosophy around what I call moment-first booking. They aren't telling stories anymore, they're farming Twitter clips. And here's the danger. When your show exists only for viral pops, those pops lose value. Every surprise return becomes less surprising. Every heel turn becomes meaningless. Fans stop investing because they know everything can be rewritten next week. It's like stitching together a bunch of trailer shots without making the actual movie. Looks good in clips, but there's no story holding it together. AJ Lee's return should have been legendary. She's a trailblazer, a beloved figure, back after a decade to help her real-life husband. That's wrestling gold. But instead of building the story to earn it, WWE went for the shortcut. And that's the problem. The greatest wrestling moments weren't great just because they were surprising. They were great because the story made them inevitable. Until WWE remembers that, they'll keep chasing pops while destroying the very thing that makes wrestling magic.